The battlefield stretched across the scarred plains of Aridion 7, a world of rusted metal spires and jagged obsidian rocks. Smoke curled into the neon sky, carrying with it the stench of molten alloys and ozone. The air vibrated with the cries of 1,000 soldiers and the hum of energy weapons. Somewhere in the chaos, a lone figure moved with terrifying precision, deflecting blasts, dismantling squads, and leaving destruction in his wake. Kael'thra, a member of the elite Sentinel Guard of the Zytherian Empire, floated above the battlefield in her anti-gravity hover armor. From her vantage point, she could see the full scale of the attack. Tens of thousands of Zytherian soldiers were advancing against what should have been a small, defensive human outpost. But already, the formation was breaking. And at the center of it all, one human moved like a force of nature. She had been trained to spot fear, to identify it in enemy commanders and strategists. But the sight of him made her stomach twist in ways she hadn't expected. He didn't wear a uniform that marked him as an elite soldier. He carried no signature weapons of mass destruction, no powered exosuit, just a rifle slung across his back and a glint in his eye that seemed impossible. Kael'thra's communicator buzzed. "Commander Vorton, do you see him?" Vorton's voice was calm, detached.
"Yes."
"He's a human. Don't let your personal fascination cloud your judgment, Kael'thra. That man will die." She ignored the voice. Something primal had taken hold. Curiosity, awe, perhaps even fear. She watched as he rolled behind the wreckage of a crumpled transport, then sprang forward, cutting a perfect line through a squad of Zytherian shock troops. Each movement was precise, efficient, elegant. Every shot he fired hit its mark. Every dodge seemed premeditated. And somehow, he seemed to anticipate the attacks of those around him, weaving through death itself with casual grace. Kael'thra's fingers tightened on the controls. "Impossible," she whispered. The human didn't even glance at the massive dropship descending behind him, carrying reinforcements. He simply fired a single round, and the energy pulse from his gun caused a chain reaction, detonating the dropship before it could touch the ground. Hundreds of soldiers fell in the ensuing explosion. Vorton's voice trembled, a rare break in his composure. How is he?" Kael'thra didn't answer. She couldn't. She was already moving her hovercraft closer, needing to see him up close. Whoever he wasn't just a soldier. He was a phenomenon. The encounter. Hours later, after the battlefield had quieted, Kael'thra landed her craft near what remained of the human encampment. The ground was littered with weapons, broken machines, and scorched earth. But there he was, leaning against a charred wall, brushing dust from his uniform with one hand, his rifle resting casually across his lap. He looked ordinary. A man in his late 20s, with messy hair, sharp eyes, and a faint smirk that suggested he knew the universe was no match for him. Kael'thra's armor clanked as she approached, and he finally lifted his gaze toward her. His eyes, bright and calculating, held a spark that made her chest tighten. "You fought well," she said, her voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside her.
"Alone."
"Against them." He shrugged, as if it were no big deal. "Guess they didn't read the manual on how to take out one guy with 2 hands tied behind his back." Kael'thra blinked.
His humor was startling.
But more than that, she realized she had never seen anyone move like him in her life. Not an elite soldier, not a cybernetic assassin, not even a master duelist from the royal guard. He had defeated an army, alone, without hesitation, and without any advanced technology. "I need your name," she said, her voice catching slightly. He leaned back, considering her. "Call me Kale." She froze. "Kale?" "Yeah," he said, smiling faintly. "It suits me, don't you think?" Kael'thas studied him. There was a confidence in him that bordered on reckless, yet he radiated an aura of calm control. He was unpredictable and yet impossibly precise. She didn't know whether to feel admiration, fear, or something else. "Kale," she repeated softly, "you've changed the course of this war today." "Maybe," he said. "Or maybe I'm just one man with too much time on his hands." She frowned. "That's not funny. Tens of thousands of my people are dead because of you." Kale just shrugged. "And how many of yours are left alive because of me?" Her communicator buzzed again. It was Vorton. "Kael'thas, withdraw. They're sending reinforcements. You're outnumbered." Kael'thas' gaze lingered on Kale. I'm not leaving you," she said firmly. He tilted his head. "Then I guess we'll have to survive together." The journey begins. Over the next few days, Kale and Kael'thas moved through enemy territory, sabotaging supply lines, rescuing prisoners, and leaving a trail of chaos behind them. Kale didn't just fight. He strategized, predicted enemy movements, and found the smallest weaknesses in the Zytherian armor. Kael'thas had never met anyone like him. He seemed to read her thoughts as easily as he read the battlefield, anticipating her reactions, pushing her to trust herself, and simultaneously challenging her to rethink everything she had learned as a soldier. One night, after a particularly brutal skirmish, they rested atop a cliff overlooking a valley lit with the distant fires of battle. Kale lit a small fire using nothing but a piece of metal and a spark generator. He didn't even carry a lighter. Kael'thas watched him silently. "You're extraordinary," she said finally. He shrugged again. "I'm human. That's the point." "Human," she repeated. "You mean all humans are like this?" He laughed softly, shaking his head. "No. Most of us are ordinary. But sometimes something pushes you. Something inside that refuses to quit. That's when humans show what they're capable of." She felt a strange warmth in her chest, a mixture of admiration and something more intimate. She had spent her life fighting, conquering, training to follow orders. But with him, all of that felt secondary. "I've never met a human like you," she admitted. "Good," he said. "You'll never see another one. And maybe that's better." The betrayal. Their growing camaraderie was shattered the next morning. A trap had been set, one they hadn't anticipated. Zytherian drones descended from the sky, cutting off their escape routes. Kael'thas' heart sank as the enormity of the situation became clear. They were surrounded. Kale moved first, calmly assessing the drones. "We need to split up," he said. "I'll draw their fire. You get to safety." "No," Kael'thas said, panic rising. "I'm not leaving you." He gave her a steady look, the calm confidence that had mesmerized her all this time. "Kael'thas, you have to. You can't fight this army. But I can. Trust me." Her armor thrummed as she hovered, ready to argue, but she saw the determination in his eyes. Against all logic, against all probability, she believed him. He sprinted forward, weaving through the drones with inhuman speed, every shot precise, every movement calculated. Kael'thara watched in disbelief as he destroyed wave after wave of enemy drones, single-handedly turning the tide of what should have been an impossible fight. Her communicator buzzed, and Vorton's voice was urgent. "Kael'thara, you have to retreat now." She swallowed hard, finally nodding. She activated her thrusters and fled, keeping a distant watch over the human who had defied death itself. She could barely comprehend the scale of what she had seen. Hours later, after she had regrouped with other Zytherian forces, she returned to the battlefield. Where Kael had fought, there were only smoking craters and shattered metal. But he was gone. No trace, no indication of survival. Only the lingering feeling of awe that he had left behind. The revelation. Weeks passed. Kael'thara found herself haunted by memories of him. The battlefield, the quiet moments, the way he had looked at her as if the universe itself posed no threat to him. She had never felt this way about anyone, not a comrade, not a commander, not even an emperor. Then a report came in. A human vessel had been sighted near the outer rim of Zytherian space. Its signature matched that of the man who had defeated an army alone. She knew, with a certainty that made her chest ache, that he had survived. The command center was silent except for her voice as she whispered to herself, "Kael, what are you?" Vorton, standing behind her, looked uneasy. "He's something else. No human should survive what he did." Kael'thara shook her head. "He's human. But he's more than that, he's hope. And I need to find him." Vorton opened his mouth to warn her against reckless action, but she didn't hear him. She was already making preparations to leave Zytherian space, to track the man who had changed everything she knew about war, courage, and humanity. Somewhere out there, across the void of space, a human was moving through impossible odds, smiling, defiant, unstoppable. And she had to know him, not as a soldier, not as a legend, but as Kael, the man who had defeated an army alone. The ending. Months later, Kael'thara's ship approached a barren asteroid belt on the edge of Zytherian territory. Sensors picked up a small, makeshift human settlement nestled within a crater. Her pulse quickened. There, amidst a few structures cobbled together from wreckage, stood Kael. He was training a small group of humans, teaching them the techniques she had witnessed firsthand, every movement precise, every word deliberate. He looked up and saw her ship descending. His eyes widened just slightly, a faint smile tugging at his lips. Kael'thara landed and stepped forward, removing her helmet. "You came," he said, almost as if surprised. "I had to," she replied. "I needed to see you."
Kael.
He extended a hand, and she took it without hesitation. The galaxy felt smaller at that moment, the war distant, and the impossible somehow achievable. Kael smiled, and for the first time, Kael'thara allowed herself to hope. "You've got no idea what humans are capable of," he said. "Then show me," she whispered. Together, they stood at the edge of the crater, two beings from different worlds, bound by courage, defiance, and the unshakable knowledge that even one human, one extraordinary human, could change the course of the universe. And Kael'thara finally asked the question that had been on her mind from the very first moment she saw him. "Kael, who are you really?" He looked at her, eyes gleaming with mischief and warmth. "I'm just a man, but maybe together we can be more." The stars stretched endlessly before them, full of infinite possibilities, and Kael'thera knew, without a doubt, that wherever he went, she would follow.